வேணாம் வேணாம் நான் கேரளா ரொம்ப எட்டாமா மொபைலில் கனெக்ட் ஆகும். நான் வெளியே போகிறேன்.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
It is with immense pleasure and honor that I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to the 9th International Research Workshop on Literacy Criticism and the Importance of Literature in the Age of Science and Technology. I welcome you all. I would like to welcome Miss Monica, faculty, Lailani Kati Publications, to deliver welcome address. Welcome, Monica.
Welcome, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 9th International Research Workshop on Literary Criticisms and the Importance of Lecture in the Age of Science and Technologies. We are honored to have Gargi Bhattacharya, and scholar and head of the Department of English and Education at IGNOU International Division in Oman, as esteemed resource person. A heartfelt appreciation to Department of Research and Development, SK Research Group of Companies, SKRGC Publication for organizing this event. Let us engage, reflect and celebrate the enduring power of lecture in shaping human thought. Even in this era of science and technologies, wishing you all enlightening section. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, I would like to invite Dr. Gargi Bhattacharya, an eminent academician and head of the Department of English and Education at IGNOE International Division in Oman, as our esteemed resource person. His expertise and insights will undoubtedly enrich our discussions and broaden our perspectives. Let this platform be a space for thought-provoking discussions, intelligent growth, and a celebration of literature timeless relevance. Wishing everyone fruitful and enlightening experience. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Saranya Devi, for your welcome address, and
Thank you,
Miss
ma'am.
Monica as well. So today I am from Oman, Muscat, to address on the topic about the relevance and importance of literature even in an age of science and technology. With the prominent growth of science and technology, has literature lost its importance? What is the common view of the people here? Anyone wants to volunteer any responses? So, do you think that nowadays study of literature is outdated or unimportant? I'm sure that you all are curious to know more about the importance of literature, even when we are making so much progress in the area of science and technology. Here, can you all see my screen?
Yes, of course.
Sarah? Yes, thank you for the response. So here I have presented some well-known quotes from the famous poets. Now the first one reads, I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. Now, anyone is familiar with this quote? Please let me know if you are already familiar and you have heard this line before. Is it new? So here it is, a famous line by Shelley, the famous romantic poet, and this thoughtfully evokes the pains of life which has to be endured while we are alive. That gives us a feeling of being alive also. The pain, as long as we feel the pain, we are alive, and we have to combat and encounter those pains to move forward. Similarly, a very relevant line by this first line is from Ode to the West Wind. I'm sure that many of you have heard or read this poem in your UG or PG levels. Ode to the West Wind. The second also, our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thoughts. This is also quoted many times and is very relevant to our current life. We all know that sadness is an inevitable part of our life. And those elements of sadness are all the more the sad songs or the poems which speak about sadness make us connect easily to those. There is a prominent therapy, psychological therapy. When I say that literature and science are interconnected, I also speak about the different therapies which are used nowadays. One of the therapies quite common is that of catharsis. So I'm sure that many of you might be knowing about catharsis, the idea of catharsism. Here, when we read or visualize sad emotions, either in the book or in the films, whatever sadness is inherent in our minds is gradually relieved from our minds. And after watching such films which are filled with sadness or reading stories which evoke the sad emotions of the mind, we are relieved from the burden of sadness. This is called catharsis. And always we know this famous proverb, which is often quoted by many scientists as well, that adversity brings the best in man. So these timeless lines or proverbs, there are numerous others. I have only cited 3, which I felt are very empathetic to the current people. That's why I just brought 3, but there are numerous. So studying of literature, even this age, brings out the human qualities in us. That's why to be humans and not just machines, we need to realize the essence of living, which are beautifully illustrated by such poets and such lines. Now, there is a popular saying also that since the time of Plato and Aristotle, the Greek philosophers, there was a debate about the importance of poetry in the Republic. So Plato already defamed poetry. I'm sure that many of you, those who have gone through the literary criticism, have already read that Plato used to defame poetry because it is just an imitation of the real world. and it has nothing to do with creating something new. What is there? The poets just explain that in different poetic devices. That's why Plato negated the importance of literature or poetry in the Republic. But Aristotle, who was his disciple, refuted all these charges against the poets and literature. He said that the poet does not simply imitate or present a particular situation or event, but he handles them in such a way that he brings out the universal and characteristic elements from small incidents. So when the poet is just depicting one small incident, it is not necessarily that he is just telling about that particular area. From that particular, the universal essence of humanity is grabbed by the poet. To quote Aristotle, the poet, by proper selection and organization of incidents, achieves a reality which is more profound than that represented by the casual surface of things which we meet in our ordinary experiences. So when we see something very trivial, we may not think in that depth which the poet can think. That's why Wordsworth says in his poetry that to me, the meanest flower that blooms gives me thoughts which are too deep for tears. So small flowers, which we see around in the nature, might not be noticed by the common human eyes, but a poet's eyes defamiliarizes that ordinary into something sublime. This idea of sublimity is further illustrated by Longinus. He refers to the qualities in a work of literature which instantaneously creates in the reader a sense of being carried to new heights of passionate experiences. So when we read a work of art, we feel that resonance in the mind which uplifts us to new heights of realization. This is the work which the poet or a literary artist can only do. So history, what is the difference between history of facts or science? History of the facts which is recorded in science, it gives us only stated numeric facts, but the literature depicts the general truths and the psychological realism with an universal appeal. So this is the magnanimity of literature, which is still considered in the age of science. Now, T.S. Eliot, who is a famous poet of the 20th century and also a literary critic, had interestingly commented in his book, Tradition and Individual Talent, which is quite well known, and many of us have read through that also. In Tradition and Individual Talent, T.S. Eliot states that poetry is not just the turning loose of emotions, that anyone can do it, but it is rather an escape from the personality. The only way of expressing emotion in the form of art is by finding an objective correlative. So the objects which are around us or which surround us can be the symbols to represent our mind. So this is what T.S. Eliot says in the book Tradition, or in his essay Tradition and Individual Talent. So what is an objective correlative? I have stated it further here, that the artistic and literary technique of representing or evoking a particular emotion by means of symbols which become indicative of that emotion are associated with it. So the associated symbols, like when we are happy, we see the birds are singing around, there is bright sunlight around us. It shows that happiness which is in the mind of the character of a literary work. So the happiness is not stated directly, but through objective correlatives, like the singing of the birds, the bright sunlight. Similarly, there is another example of objective correlative to convey the protagonist's sense of loneliness or isolation. The fields were sere. SCRE, sere is a new word for many. It means it was withered and dry. The pastures trampled with the wreckage of the night storms. Lonely egrets would flap past. Egrets are birds which are like herons, and they are all just passing alone. Their size is exaggerated by their proximity. So these all different objects tell about the artistic resonances or the objective correlative, which is apt for the expression of the loneliness. So here the different surroundings are already telling about the loneliness which is in the heart of the protagonist. Similarly, whenever there is like an emotion of sadness, it is evoked by withered rose or darkness, similar things. There is another similar term which is often used nowadays, which is a poetic device to express the feelings or transfer the feelings, which is called the transferred epithet. I'm sure that some of you have heard about the transferred epithet. So since it's a workshop, any responses, like any one of you aware of the transferred epithet here? Would you like to answer here? Yes, audience, I would like to know if anyone is aware of the poetic device which is called transferred epithet. After we have realized that what is the use of objective correlative, anyone would like to volunteer answers about transferred epithet which is used in poem? Epithet is an adjective, right? Yes. Okay, so epithet is an adjective. Ramadevi has answered that it is there. T.S. Eliot has already told about objective correlative. Similarly, transferred epithet is also an adjective which is transferred from the human to the object which is surrounding. For example, if I say the person lay on the pensive bed. Now, pensive is a mood. The person is pensive, but this quality is transferred to the bed. So the emotion of a person, when it is transferred to something which is inanimate, this is called the transferred epithet. Now here the comparison is the transfer is very direct because it's telling transferred pensive bed. But in objective correlative, it is just the surrounding is explained to give an equivalent to the mood of the character. So this is the difference between transferred epithet and objective correlative. And both of these are used in current literature, and many times we have seen the poets are evoking the emotions through objective correlative, or they are using the adjectives of the protagonist to that of the inanimate objects to which they are associated. Binotha K has raised a hand. Do you have any questions? Binotha K? Okay, then I can continue with the next idea about 21st century poetry. Now here we have another idea of the different novels which are seen in the 21st century, where we find that the writers are using many of the characters from scientific background. So this is another instance of how to use the characteristics of science in literature. 1 minute, I'm sharing the screen. Yes, 1 minute. Okay, am I audible now? Yes. So now after T.S. Eliot's tradition and individual talent, I go to explain how there is the connection.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes. So now I am drawing a connection between literature and science because both are based on the two main pivotal points. One is imagination, the other is curiosity. Science is born as a product of experimentation and curiosity. We all agree to that, right? So science is born out of literature, out of experimentation and curiosity. Same way, literature is also the product of imagination. Where there is no imagination, there can be neither science nor literature because the elements of curiosity and imagination are common in both cases. Now, I would like to cite some examples of the recent novels which depict the importance of science in literature. First one is A Beautiful Mind. Anyone here has already read the story of The Beautiful Mind? Please raise your hands if anyone is aware of the story of The Beautiful Mind. No one has read? Okay, it was published in 2001. The protagonist of this story, that is A Beautiful Mind, is a prominent mathematician who is John Forbes, who seems to be guaranteed a promising future when he won the international acclaim as a result of his pioneering work in the field. After he is recruited to assist the military with top secret code breaking duties. So John Forbes, who is the main character of this novel, is also a mathematician. So we are seeing how in current novels, the role of the people, protagonists from the field of science and mathematics is gaining importance. So John Forbes is a mathematician who is trusted with a top secret work of breaking the codes. This high pressure job takes its toll on him and he begins to develop a mental illness. So this is where the crux of the novel or the anticlimax of the novel forms, that he becomes mentally unstable. From here only we can understand that how the protagonist needs to be treated from the psychological point of view because science alone does not guarantee the well-being of the mind as well. So this is another example. Next, we have the next novel, which is Proof, Proof, Proof in 2000, published in 2005. Here it deals with Roberts, a man who at one time was a brilliant mathematician. So here we see that Robert was also a mathematician, which was published in 2005, and he was affected with some mental illness. Second, this mental illness also needs to be treated through psychiatric treatment. And here also we understand that science alone does not guarantee the mental wellness of the people. Next, we go to the third novel, which was published in 2014. This is Ramanujan and the Man, the biographical film based on the life of the Indian mathematician who chronicles his journey across the countries and continents in search of recognition. Can you see the PPT?
No.
The PPT is not presenting. 1 minute. I want to present the PPT which is adjacent to that. One minute. Share the audio.
Participants, please wait. Ma'am, your voice not audible, ma'am.
Yes. Am I audible?
Ma'am, yes, continue.
I cannot share my screen. What happened? I don't know. Before I was sharing.
Reconnect the device, ma'am.
Yes, I'm trying to share only that Windows is not opening. This one, I don't know. Without the screen, I am trying to reconnect it. Because without the screen, I think it won't be easy for them to understand the points. So I would like to share.
PDF to WhatsApp, ma'am. I will share the presentation, ma'am.
Okay, can you just share the presentation?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. This Windows is not opening. 1 minute. Okay, if email sharing is not possible, then I will do through without PPT only because my PPT is not working here. If I cannot share it through the email because this is not opening just now, I don't know why. It was working some time back only.
No issues, ma'am. We will get it later through the WhatsApp. You can go ahead.
Okay, so what are the, I was talking about the different novels that only I wanted to display here, which the novels which are not, that after that second novel which I was dealing, The Imitation Game, the third novel, here also this tells about the main character. Please note down the novel's name because I cannot present here. I don't know why. I tried to reconnect, but it's not working. Shall I leave and reconnect once more, or just I continue with the names of the novels? Yes, can I just continue with the names of the novels, or do I need to reconnect once more? Yes. If you have an email, I can send the PPT. Otherwise, I can continue. Okay, the next novel which I wanted to share here. It's not working. Cancel. In the novel The Imitation Game, the main character is Alan Turing, who embarks on a mission to test a machine's ability to exhibit the intelligent behavior that is equivalent to the human. So here also we can understand that how human beings are using the AI techniques in order to understand the value of science. So AI and technology are moving hand in hand in the novel The Imitation Game, which was published in 2014. And the mission to test a machine's ability is also very important because nowadays the many cases we see that AI is replacing the human beings in the field of science and technology. Similarly, in A Theory of Everything, which is published in 2014, it revolves around the physicist Stephen Hawking, who was afflicted with motor neuron disease. We are all aware about the great physicist and also uh, the main inventions which are made in the field of science and technology by and medicine by Stephen Hawking. He breaks new grounds in the field of the medicine. And the film, which is set A Theory of Everything, is published in 2014. This also speaks about a scientific character and how he makes groundbreaking revolutions in the field of science and technologies. But what are the impact on the mind of the person is only realized by the field of literature. So this is another important work. So many types of scientific fictions have evolved during the recent years, which tell about the importance of science and how science and literature intermingle to have a very comprehensive impact on modern civilization. So it has many interest in the field of neuro novels have sprung with the recent publication of A Theory for Everything, which was published in 2014. The relationship between literature and science is multifaceted and it encompasses various dimensions such as influence, exploration of themes, and methods of understanding the world. Here, some key aspects of the relationship between science and literature can be examined, and we can say that most of the modern novels are interdisciplinary in nature. Now, there is an idea of interdisciplinarity. I don't know if you are aware of this idea. Please post your responses. I would like to make it more interactive instead of I only speaking. So, what is the meaning of interdisciplinarity of current studies, whether it is at the university level or at the college level? Even at the school levels, they are practicing interdisciplinarity of literature or interdisciplinarity of different streams of studies. Anyone aware, please post your answers either in the chat box or blending different domains. Yes, Pooja has rightly told that nowadays we find that science, social science, humanities, and literature, they blend with each other to have a overall view or a comprehensive view of understanding. So this is called interdisciplinarity of literature. Literature often explores themes and concepts that arise from scientific inquiry, such as human nature. So in all these novels, which I just now gave the names, I could not display them. One is The Beautiful Mind, the other is The Proof, the third is Ramanujan, which is based on the story of the famous mathematician Another novel was published on Ramanujan. The name of the novel is The Man Who Knew Infinity, which was published in 2015 as well. And The Imitation Game. These all novels have the protagonist as a scientific figure or a mathematician who are trying to do some work on the field of science and technology, and what is the impact in their mind after being involved in such activities is discussed in these novels. So here also we see that how literature and science coalesce and intermingle to produce the diverse effects. So science as theme has become a major genre or in many of the literary works. So this is an example of how science and literature grows together. So these different novels also tell us about plurality in interpretations. This is a famous idea which is commonly known as reader's response criticism. Who was the main protagonist or the person who propagated the idea of reader response criticism? I'm sure many of you have heard about this idea of reader response theories and criticism, and Roland Barthes. So anyone aware of reader response criticism, which is very apt in analyzing modern open-ended texts? So some responses from your side. Since it's a workshop, I would like to know that what do you know about reader response criticism and open-ended texts, which is a very modern phenomenon of the 20th and 21st century poetry and novels. Anyone here knows about the ideas of reader response theories? Please raise your hands and we can add to the discussion. Yes, what is a reader response theory and criticism? Or anyone has heard about the famous critic Roland Barthes, who first propounded or is a pioneer? Death of the author. I.A. Richards is a new criticism. So I.A. Richards, Sivapriya has given the names of I.A. Richards as related to practical criticism and new criticism. I am telling about, yes, Stephen Fish came later, but first is Roland Barthes, ROLAND BARTHES. So Roland Barthes was the pioneer in that, and this theory tells that we should not depend on a monolithic interpretation of any work of art. So the work of art is multidimensional in nature and it has multiple interpretations. So this also shows that we are not dependent on any particular field of art. We believe in giving more freedom to multifarious discussions. That's why this is called plurality in interpretations. With the advent of various digital platforms, which is again an offspring in the scientific age for reading and writing, there has been a remarkable surge in the way we consume and create stories. So plurality of writing, plurality in digital platform, plurality of thinking process, this has led to multiple interpretations. This shift has revolutionized the traditional ways of studying literature, and it has paved new ways for innovative storytelling methods. So nowadays, many competitions are organized on the web, which tell that the writers deliberately keep the end open, like the story ends suddenly without a definite climax, because it is for the readers to interpret or understand what can be the next outcome or what happens after this. Sequels of the novels are left to the many readers to complete them, and there are some competitions which are organized by many of the digital platforms that who gives the best conclusion to this novel can win a prize. So such type of competitions have become common with this new age technology. So, what are the benefits of science and literature combining? Actually, it is more beneficial because literature has become more accessible in the current age. Literature can make complex scientific ideas more accessible when we make a search through Chat GPT, or when we have Google search, simple searching machines, also engines like Google search, where we find that many of the scientific concepts which are difficult to understand, like the idea of parallel worlds. This is another scientific concept. So this has been brought very easily by the new searching engines and chat gpt, and people can think more. So literature, also many novels which were not accessible to the people, many books, literary works which were before not easily accessible, now they are easily accessible with the help of popular online areas, libraries, or even online selling and buying platforms. Similarly, the philosophical inquiry literature often grapples with philosophical implications of the scientific discoveries, questioning what it means to be human or the moral responsibility of the human. So there are so many ideas where philosophy is embedded in this idea of science and literature. So many times, like the idea of gravitational pull has been used by philosophers in numerous ways. We already know that the gravitational pull is a scientific phenomena. In one of the motivational speeches by a philosopher, he puts a different dimension to this idea of gravitational pull. For example, he says that the gravitational pull will try to pull you down with numerous excuses, and it will not allow you to explore yourself. But a determined mind will soar up to do justice to the potential self that refuses to yield, and it rises like the phoenix from its ashes. So here the gravitational pull is used from a different perspective, where it's just not a scientific phenomena, but it is also telling about the societal pressure or the familial pressure which is put on human beings who cannot grapple with the external forces which try to put him or her down from exploring himself or herself. So these scientific concepts are metaphorically used in philosophy and literature from different perspectives. There are different literary criticism, and often we find there is a tryst between the virtual reality and creativity. There are many literary movements and their significances which has shaped the entire journey of literature, and it has impacted on science as well. For example, I started my today's workshop with the idea of catharsis, which is a very psychological phenomena, and it is used in literature as well, which I explained already. There is a second idea of mimesis, mimesis. So mimesis is another idea which is very much scientific in nature, which tells about imitating some ideas, or even it relates to copying some external ideas and placing it in another direction. So this is called the art of mimesis. Before, it was thought that poets just take and imitate the real world in their writing, but later many of the critics have challenged this idea of mimesis, and they told that mimesis is a virtue where the poet defamiliarizes the real world into some other heights of sublimity. So mimesis is just not a mere copying of the real world or an attempt to copy the real world. It is rather a way to defamiliarize the trivial or the mundane and make it more sublime. So this is another aspect of the critics, both in the field of literature and philosophy, who try to sublimate the commonplace ideas and things. We also have the idea of transcendentalism. Anyone already familiar with the idea of transcendentalism here would like to add to the discussion? Transcendental philosophy and transcendentalism, which is a very common phenomena in the 19th century, and it is revived again in the 20th century as an important part of literary criticism. So please raise your hands and answer. What is the idea of transcendental philosophy or transcendentalism? I'm sure that many of us have already read about romantic art and romanticism in literature, right? All of us are aware. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, so please respond so that it is more interactive in nature instead of me only talking ideas after ideas. So I would like to add to the discussion. One's destiny and nature is God. Yes, Jay Pooja has rightly answered that nature is worshipped by the philosophers and the literary figures and is put on the same height as if it is God. So there is no separate God or religion when nature is worshipped. And this type of transcendental philosophy is found in the works of many writers in American literature. So we already read about Edgar Allan Poe. We read about Thoreau's Walden. So they all tell about transcendentalism where nature is of supreme importance. And in science also, when we tell about the importance of science or we draw the relation, it is just not a common attempt. It had been done in 19th century or even before that. So nature and science are both related to each other, and nature is taken as supreme importance in literature through transcendentalism. So is it clear? There is a relationship through transcendentalism between nature and literature, and science is also relating itself everything to as natural facts and phenomena. So this way also we can connect literature and science. Then we have the idea of naturalism and positivism. So these are the different literary criticism where science and literature again mingle with each other. For example, in naturalism, the harsh and sordid realities of practical life are focused. So many of the writers like John Osborne in Look Back in Anger has already commented on the harsh realities or sordid realities of commonplace existence, which is both scientific, but it is put in literature, in the novels, through the way which is called in the literary criticism naturalism. Naturalism later terminated into the decadent movement. So after naturalism, it became transmuted itself to the decadent movement that sees life without any illusions. So it sees life with all its facets, different facets of life, without illusion, and the seeming or the negative aspects of life are projected here with an idea to provide a solution. So if we don't provide the problems or we don't project the problems, the solutions cannot be guaranteed. So the aim of the decadent movement in the late 20th century was to project the sordid or the seamy areas of existence, so that it can be an eye opener for many, and it can also provide solutions to those problems. Then we have different divisions of naturalism. One is the sociological naturalism, the other is the scientific naturalism. And later it again transmuted to positivism. What is positivism? Positivism analyzes an aesthetic work or an artistic work with a scientific approach and prioritizes sensory experiences. In literature, positivism can be determined in an attempt to explain the personality of the writer as expressed in his writings. So here the experience of the writer is expressed in his writings, which is also known as positivism, and it is regarded as a scientific method where the personal biography of the writer is important to study to understand certain facts which are illustrated in their work of writings or art. So here if we compare the writings of Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes, I am sure that many of us have read the confessional poetries of Sylvia Plath, right? So Sylvia Plath was a strong feminist. If we here we can apply positivism very clearly. So Sylvia Plath was a strong feminist, and she actually wrote against patriarchal norms. So here we find that in the poem An Applicant, which was published in the poetry collection Ariel by Sylvia Plath, she is telling about the general conventions of marriage, and she is also criticizing the rules and the regulations and the expectations of a patriarchal society. So when we make a positivist apply a positivist approach to the poem, we understand that how the scientific facts are presented in an oblique way in literature. For example, here a woman is told like a living doll everywhere you look. It can sew, it can cook, it can talk, it works. If it works, there is nothing wrong. So some lines which are quoted here tells about the general expectation of the patriarchal society from a woman. Similarly, when we read the poems of Ted Hughes, we have some scientific terms which are used to explain how nature and literature again coalesce in the work of art. For example, I sit in the poem Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. The poet says that I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse the perfect kills and eat. So this is telling the perfect process which is necessary for a predatory bird to sustain itself. So here the scientific or the biological facts are narrated in the work of art with more ramifications of meaning. The convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy, and the sun's rays are of advantage to me. So here again, the nature and art is mixing and mingling, as we already seen in the 19th century transcendentalism. So here also we see that how nature and art are mixed when the word scientific terms are also used in literature, like air's buoyancy and the sun rays. So these all tell that literature and science are not different branches of studies, but they are rather providing a new branch of studies. Nowadays, we have humanities where philosophy, literature, social science mingle with scientific branches to create a comprehensive understanding, or to create a tryst, T-R-Y-S-T, quote unquote, which is important, between virtual reality, and creativity. So this is very important for the common branch of study where we have interactive fiction, as I already discussed. The texts of poetry and novels, they are left open ended for the readers to complete online. So this is an interactive fiction which is only possible with the aid of technology, because if we don't have access to different works of art through online library or through online buying platforms, then we cannot get these types of work, or we cannot access these competitions where the best ending of a novel is left to the readers to complete through online entries. So I don't think that science has threatened the position of literature at all. It has made literature more accessible to the different people through different techniques and through scientific aids, which has made the learning experience more enriching. Nowadays, we focus more on experiential learning. That is, learning, the process of experiencing learning, not the final product, but even the process which a reader goes through or a student goes through is important outcome. To understand the outcome of the studies is more important than achieving just the final product. So these all things show a scientific bend of mind and how literature and science intermingle in the modern interfaces to make the learning experience more enriching. Now I want to ask another question which tells about the different ways of gaining knowledge. So nowadays, knowledge has become multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. Anyone would like to clarify on these three concepts of multidisciplinarity of knowledge, transdisciplinarity of knowledge, and interdisciplinarity of knowledge? I'm sure you have come across these terms also in the current education system. So, do you advocate all these types of learning? And what are the small nuances of differences between transdisciplinarity of knowledge, interdisciplinarity, and multidisciplinarity? Anyone please volunteer again, some different people? Yes, please. Interdisciplinarity we already discussed. And there is intertextuality also. So what is the difference between multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarity? Okay, without wasting much time, let me give the answer here then. Multidisciplinarity of knowledge, it tells about different academic disciplines working together and drawing on one topic without mingling with each other. Like, there are different disciplines, science, social science, humanities, which are working for the betterment of humankind, but in their own way. But the topic is same, that it is working on the betterment, or what are the different resources by which the human beings can benefit. So on their different ways. So this is called multidisciplinarity of knowledge, or multidisciplinarity of current studies system. The next is interdisciplinarity, which tells about different academic disciplines working together to integrate disciplinary knowledge. So here the integration process is there to develop and meet shared research goals. So this is interdisciplinarity. Like, they are working together and integrating with each other with a common research goals, which can be anything. The synthesis of approaches between science or literature and other branches of humanities like philosophy, psychology. We have the different philosophies like feminism. We did now defamiliarization approach. We did reader response theories. How these different approaches can be applied to different branches of learning. This is interdisciplinarity. And finally, we have the transdisciplinarity of knowledge. Here, the academic disciplines work together with non-academic collaborations, like not necessarily all the findings should be limited to the academic discipline. It can go outside academic to the films, to art, like art integration projects, and to performance art also, like fine arts and etc., where academic disciplines mingle with other disciplines which are beyond academic curriculum to have some research goals. So this is called the transdisciplinarity of knowledge. So these are the different ways by which we are currently following the education system to make a more enriching experience. So I would like to conclude my discussion by telling that science and literature are not like totally unrelated to each other. They are rather very much closely related to each other, and that's why the current trend in novels, in approaches to study, it guarantees that literature and science should intermingle for the best uh, products, like the best knowledge of the human beings, or for an enriching experiences, what we call the cumulative learning experience. So rather, science and literature should mingle with each other for a cumulative learning experience. Another important finding in this field is now scientists are writing literary works of art, which is included in CBSE syllabus and UGC syllabus as well. For example, one article or one prose work which is titled The Adventure is included in the CBSE syllabus, which is by an astrophysicist. I am sure that many of you have heard the name of Jayant Narlikar, who is an astrophysicist. He has written a work of literature which is called The Adventure, which speaks about the parallel worlds of existence. How it is very interesting prose piece. If possible, please go through it. The summary of it is here, that how the protagonist, who is a historian, meets an accident or hits against a truck and goes in a stage of coma, and in his mind he goes back to the past and travels to another world and experiences the different ways of living. Like the same experiences which he faces in the current world is quite different, and he reverses what happened in his current world. So this is a very complicated story because it mixes history with science and literature. So that's why, and the writer is himself a scientist. So that's why science and literature are not antithetical to each other. They are rather in many places combining and aiding each other's understanding. So only science is not adequate, or only literature without scientific advances is also incomplete. So both should combine and coalesce for the development of the human mind. So I end my discussion here. I would like to invite questions or anything from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing valuable insights and expertise, ma'am. Participants, any queries? Participants, any queries? Kindly discuss, Gargi ma'am. We move to the vote of thanks, ma'am. Gargi ma'am, shall we move to the vote of thanks, ma'am?
Yes, no questions or no doubts?
Yes, no one can ask.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all. I would like to invite Miss Yogeshwari, faculty, Learning Active.
Good evening, everyone. Respected scholars and dear participants, as we conclude the 9th International Research Workshop on Literary Criticism and the Importance of Literature in the Age of Science and Technology, I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this event a success. A special thanks to our esteemed research person, Dr. Gargi Bhattacharya, for sharing her invaluable insights and expertise. Our sincere appreciation goes to the Department of Research and Development, SK Research Group of Companies, SKRGC Publication for their dedication and efforts in organizing for this workshop. Lastly, a warm thank you to all the participants for your engagement. Your presence made this event meaningful and impactful. Wishing you all continued success in your academic. Thank you.
Thank you, Yogeshwari. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Now it's sharing again. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, any further questions or doubts? Anyone would like to see the screen now? It's sharing now. I don't know. Anyway, I will share the screens later, the PPT. Saranya Devi, can you share the feedback link?
Yes, ma'am. We will share PPT to individual, ma'am.
Okay. So now it's okay, fine. You can share later on. Okay, so no questions? Feedback link.
I will share the feedback link, ma'am. 2 minutes.
Okay, fine. Sometimes it's coming the PPT and it's going. Yeah. Those who want to see,
Monday
anyone who wants to see the names of the novels or something, it is sharing now. I am presenting. Can you just? It is sharing now. I don't know why it was not sharing that time. The names of the novels which I had cited, I would like to display it here. Yeah, these are the novels. Those who are present, can you take a note of this? Beautiful Mind and The Imitation Game, The Theory of Everything, The Hidden Figures. So these are the different novels which I already discussed in the session. It was not sharing that time, so I don't know why it was not sharing. Shall I put it off now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then I'm stopping it. Okay, shall I leave or any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I will share the certificate on Monday morning. Monday morning, I will share the certificate to all participants, ma'am.
Okay, so the link is already posted, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the valuable program, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry for the technical glitch. I don't know why it's sometimes sharing and sometimes it's not sharing.
Okay, ma'am.
Again, I tried. See, again, I tried. It's coming now, but it was not coming some time back. So there is some technical glitch. Otherwise, thanks. Okay, so I'm leaving.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Is there any feedback link that you have posted already?
Can the organizing team please confirm if you're sharing any feedback link, or shall we leave the meeting?
you.